For estate planning, I think a lot of families create their wills, they name their beneficiaries and their executors, the people that they trust to look after the distribution of their assets, but they don't realize the responsibility that they're putting on the executor. They don't realize the personal liability that actually comes along with becoming an executor. For whoever you've named as your executor, they could be sued, or they could be personally liable for any misdistribution or any mess-ups or perceived mess-ups in terms of the distribution of assets. If the investments are left perhaps in the existing investments for too long and the market happens to decline at that period of time, some other beneficiaries may say, hey, executor should have pulled it out sooner. They should be liable for that portion of loss that was incurred. So I don't think that people really understand the magnitude of what's involved in being an executor. And so I would encourage them to look into simplifying their assets and estate to make sure that the transition is as smooth as possible, making sure that the executor knows as much about your wishes and intents as possible, so that they're very clear in terms of what they need to do to get things done. The will is often very specific about how it's to be distributed. These are the beneficiaries, but then who gets grandma's cookbook and who gets the diamond ring, and sometimes those more sentimental items need to be very clearly specified so that there's no uncertainty about how things are distributed. And I think there is actually what's called executor insurance. And so I would encourage families to look into protecting the executor to make sure that they're not held personally liable for a perceived miss in terms of the distribution of the assets. There's been a number of lawsuits and cases where executors are put on the hot seat to explain or justify how things were distributed. And I think that it's really sad to see how things can evolve and how broken apart families become as they fight over whether it be the cookbook or whether it be financial assets. And I think that it doesn't need to be that way. I think if people are really clear about their wishes and making sure that they're very well laid out in writing, it can really alleviate a lot of the potential headaches that can ensue. As an executor, often families select a child or a family member to act in that capacity, and they do have the right to step down from that responsibility. But oftentimes people will take that role on. Especially important for parents that perhaps have kids that live in the United States or abroad. Any executor that is considered foreign, even in a different province, is considered foreign. They actually have to post a bond of 2 times the value of the estate. And that can be prohibitive for a number of executors. And so a lot of people don't realize that their estate plan is actually set to fail because they didn't realize some little loophole or legality that they needed to be aware of. So reviewing your estate plan and with your financial planner and with your lawyer to make sure that everything is lined up is really key.